Hi everyone, Dru with Dru Talks. So Dru Talks has been around for over a year now, which is very, very exciting. Thank you to my 125 subscribers. You guys are great. We talk a lot about COVID, we talk a lot about politics, which are things that I've become very passionate about. But one thing that has surprised me is I've always been rather eccentric. But what I didn't expect was that in the course of a year, myself and people like me have suddenly been branded as domestic political extremists. Now, if you watch my videos, you will know that I have ideas that not everybody is going to agree with. Maybe I'm old school. I come from a time where that's okay, where we can discuss ideas. We can discuss the philosophy behind the idea you have. There's no anger involved. I don't mind assertive people that are a little confrontational, as long as they aren't angry. And what we are facing now is a level of anger that I have been surprised at, and I probably will never forget again. So, Dru, the domestic political extremist. Hi. I never thought that that would be a title I'd wear, but here we are. Strange times. Yeah, I do have a lot of ideas that are not mainstream. I have a lot of ideas that even conservatives are like, what the heck is that? But I highly doubt that makes me a danger to society. I'm going to list off some of my more radical stuff. Prepare to be shocked. First thing, I would end prohibition tomorrow. It's ridiculous the size of our prisons at this moment. We have police officers in constant conflict with people because of the drug war. If you don't like cops pulling people over for arbitrary little things, get rid of the drug war. Part of the premise for them to get into that car is the drug war. They're looking for drugs. They're in their vest with their guns and their tanks. Like, policemen do not need tanks, but because of the drug war, they've had to fight for, what is it now? 40, 50 years we've been doing this. Our grandparents did prohibition in the 1920s for alcohol, realized within 10 years it was a bad idea and axed it. We have carried on the drug war forever, and I'm a Jesus girl. I don't like drugs. I don't use them, but I'm sure as darn not gonna put my neighbor in a cage, have the state kidnap them because I disagree with what they're doing. And quite frankly, the idea that the drug war stops drug use is not playing out in reality. Kids are still getting drugs. There's a meth problem. By the way, meth exists because cocaine was so expensive, because the street price was high, because it's on the black market. And you want to talk about the biggest drug pushers in the United States, let's talk about the pharmaceutical companies. Well, we're all crawling around on our hands and knees, kissing the feet of Pfizer and Moderna. These are drug cartels. They're just doing it legally. Ooh, what's another one? The war on terror has been pushed on the American people ever since I was in high school. I've watched generations of young men go to war. They sign up to defend this country and they end up over there promoting really despicable stuff to try to stop the Taliban or ISIS or whatever we're doing. But a lot of our problems with our foreign policy are problems we've created from meddling where we shouldn't have meddled in the first place. If we want to control foreign governments, we need to do it by making them dependent on us because our trade is so good with them that they economically rely on us for something. We do it through the market. We do not do it through the boots and the guns and the tanks. Foreign bases, gone. Bring the troops home. Well, we're on a roll now. I think felons should be allowed to vote. I think if you have done your time, there is absolutely no reason you should be punished for life by being denied the right to vote. You can re-enter society as a full-fledged citizen, not as some second-rate citizen that people have decided is a throwaway and has no human rights anymore. I think the public education system is an unhealthy monopoly. I wasn't super passionate about this till 2020, and then I saw what kind of adults have been churned out of the public system. Ooh. We definitely need to do a little better, not just educating our children, but informing them, maybe teaching them some philosophy behind what they think. Getting people off the public education system cannot happen tomorrow. We have too many families dependent on the school system to educate their children and to watch their children so they can work. Sadly, a lot of them are working to support a huge mouth to feed, which would be Uncle Sam. So how are we going to do that? I have some ideas. We could take all the money that we're using to fund the public system and distribute it to the families per child and let them decide where they're going to spend that money for that education. And within 10 years, the program expires. There's no more public funding, but we've built up other private institutions to be able to take the place of these enormous money-sucking, teacher union-loved institutions. It's not going to be perfect, but I don't see why the free market is held up to the standard of must be perfect when we're comparing it to the government model. It wins every time. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be better than the public option. Another thing, I'm a huge capitalist. I wish we had capitalism. We don't have capitalism. We have corporatism. I would lift all tariffs and sanctions. I would make the market 100% free. I would get rid of licensing laws. They hurt poor entrepreneurs. They make it hard to get into the market. One of the best ways to climb the ladder out of poverty is to start a business. Licensing laws are standing in the way of that. The free market can protect the consumer as long as we don't have the government protecting the businesses. I'm sorry, businesses. I don't think you legally should be able to take public funding. Unless you are doing a project for the government, example, road construction, yeah, you should get paid for that. But you shouldn't be getting taxpayer money for your business. The money you get from the taxpayer is the money they have willingly given you for a service you've provided, not, oh, the government's going to give me this loan. The government is going to give me this grant. Nope, you don't get that. I don't think nonprofits should be supported by government grants. No, education shouldn't be supported by government grants. The free market is the best way to get people out of poverty. And right now, the government's clogging the system like a really nasty hairball in a pipe. It just needs to be pushed out of there, out of the way. Flat tax. No more income tax, no more property taxes. I mean, come on. You basically rent your property from the state at this point, because if you don't pay for the taxes, they come and take it. Flat tax. So state of Montana, if you make under $35,000 a year, you don't pay taxes. If you make over $35,000, $2,000 a year. How will we fund the government with just that little amount? Oh, I guess you won't. Means we'll have to take all these jobs and put them in the private sector. And if they aren't needed in the private sector, then they aren't needed at all. I honestly think the age of adulthood in the US should be 20. I think at age 20, you can join the military, you can get married, you can do whatever you want to do. I feel like we have 18 as adulthood just so we can get people into the military as soldiers, 18-year-old kids. I think 20 would be a much better age. At 20, you can be tried as an adult. At 20, you can join the military. Anything younger than that, man, maybe it's just because I'm getting old, but I look at somebody who's 18, somebody who's 19, and I'm like, look at that little baby. I don't want an 18 or 19-year-old going to fight a war. 20 should be the age. And by the way, if you're legally an adult, you can get married, you can drink, you can smoke, you can buy whatever gun you want. The state owns it, you can own it. Speaking of decisions we make as adults, I don't think a marriage is between you and your beloved and the creepy government guy. As adults, we sign contracts all the time in the free market. We sign business contracts, we sign rental agreements, we sign all this stuff. There is absolutely no reason the government needs to issue marriage license. You want to have 8 wives and your wife is okay with that? Do your thing. I'm not marrying a bunch of different people. The state of Montana, they require the woman to take a blood test before they can get married. We're like the only state that requires that. 2 adults make the decision that they are getting married. They stand before their God and their community. They agree to the terms of this marriage, and this is how it works. 2 consenting legal adults getting married. The state doesn't need to be involved. I know it might take out of the wedding ceremony for some of you the super romantic signing of the marriage license. And last but not least, when the radicals invaded the Capitol and there was this huge to-do about it, all this weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth, how dare they go to the sacred temple of the United States? When you have had a whole year where the whole world just burned, everyone was like, no, there's nothing to see here. Psst, tish tosh, you're making a big deal out of nothing. Yes, people are dying, including children, these riots, but it's not that big of a deal. But then suddenly, when there is like violence on the doorstep of the sacred Capitol, there was so much pearl clutching from these people that have sent thousands and thousands and thousands of the poor young men in this country who are my age to war. Suddenly there's a mob at their door. Oh, all these pro-gun control people needed armed troops to protect them, but I shouldn't have the right to protect my family with that kind of firepower. News stories going on and on and on about this was the day to go down in history. I honestly think it was one of the most hilarious moments of the whole circus of last year. Like the guy sitting with his feet up on the desk, the little dude running off with Nancy Pelosi's podium. And I guess having viewpoints like that is probably what makes me a domestic political extremist at this point. And if you agree with me on any of these viewpoints, then guess what? You're probably labeled one too. So don't worry, we're gonna make t-shirts. So like, share, subscribe, dislike, do whatever, leave a comment. I love getting those. And we will see you next time.